5 teams to go in my road to predict all 131 teams this college football offseason. We are moving on to the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, who, I mean, were a really, really good team last year. Their record might not show how good of a team it is, as their record may have been a little underwhelming. But, I mean, if you've watched this Western Kentucky team last year, you know how good this team was a season ago, especially throwing the football. This was one of the best offenses in the nation, probably the best passing offense in the nation from last year, all led by offensive coordinator Zach Kittley. However, you do lose a lot of key pieces on that side, and, well, your defense struggled at times last year, and they're losing some key pieces off that defense as well. So can Western Kentucky find themselves back in a bowl game in 2022, or will this be a year that the Hilltoppers maybe take a bigger step back than what a lot of people are predicting? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 131 teams this college football offseason, which means I'm predicting your favorite team. So if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button, because I'm going to post videos during the season as well, talking all things college football. And you can even go find the prediction for your favorite team. I got playlists on my channel that you can go search through and find. But in case you're one of the fans of a few teams that I haven't done yet, hey, that's no worries. Hit the ring the bell, as well as hitting that subscribe button, so you know when the next video gets uploaded. For fans of the Hilltoppers out there, you guys will know this team a lot more than I do. So if you feel like I missed something, you want to add something, anything of that sort, please leave it in the comment section down below, and I'd be more than happy to hear what you guys have to say. But let's talk about Western Kentucky in 2022. They're my 5th-ranked team in Conference USA coming into this upcoming season. So, yes, I am expecting this team to take a step back, but I think most people are, because this offense was ridiculous last year. Let me throw up their record. They were 9-5, 7-2 in conference. Does include the loss to the eventual conference champs in UTSA in the conference championship game. 528 yards per game, 43 points per game on the offensive end. One of the best offenses in the entire nation. Now, their defense did struggle at times. 422 yards per game with 29 points per game allowed. Not necessarily great defensive stats, but when your offense scores 43 points per game, that's kind of the least of your concerns at that point when your offense is playing at such an effective clip. When you take a look at players that are leaving, well, what this won't tell you is that their offensive coordinator, Zach Kittley, is gone over to Texas Tech. Now, there's a lot of hype surrounding the Red Raiders program, and I wish him luck over there with this program, but Western Kentucky will be missing him dearly, along with a lot of offensive talent. Bailey Zappe is gone. I mean, he was just a phenomenal quarterback last year. 5,967 yards, was oh so close to 6,000 yards. 62 touchdowns, which I believe is now a college football record, and then 11 touchdowns last season, 11 interceptions. Had 62 touchdowns, which again I believe is now a new record among everyone to have ever played college football in the entire nation. I think broke Joe Burrow's record at LSU of 60. I mean, look, Bailey Zappe was phenomenal last year. Part of it was the offensive system. Part of it is just the pure talent that he has. He will be missed at this Western Kentucky program. Couple running backs out of the room. Now, they did throw the ball almost twice as much as they ran it, but you still lose your 2 leading rushers. Noah Whittington and Adam Cofield combined for around 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns last year. That's solid production gone out of the running back room. The wide receiver room, well, your 2 biggest names in that wide receiver stable are now leaving the program. Jareth Stearns, who had 1,902 yards and 17 touchdowns last year. Yeah, that was his stat line. I know, it's insane. Mitchell Tinsley, there's another 1,400-yard receiver right there. 1,402 yards with 14 touchdowns last year. I mean, just crazy numbers put up by this wide receiver group. Ben Ratzlaff was kind of a depth guy. They are losing him. Did have 118 yards last year, but Stearns and Tinsley are the 2 biggest losses on this wide receiver group. Probably on this offense, besides Bailey Zappe there as well. On the defensive side, you lose a couple of defensive linemen, Marcus Bragg and Michael Pitts. You have a defensive line, linebacker, edge rusher combination player, and D'Angelo Malone, who's gone, had 94 tackles, 9 sacks last year. The 9 sacks led the team, and the 94 tackles were second on the team. Demetrius Kane is also leaving the linebacker position, 55 tackles last year, also had 2 picks. Beanie Bishop, who, speaking of picks, led this team with 3 interceptions a season ago, 4 passes defended, 42 tackles. He's gone, as well as guys like Antoine Kincaid, who led this team in tackles last year with 100, the big 100. And then Miguel Edwards is another name that is leaving this defensive back grouping as well. He had 4 pass defended, 2 picks, 38 tackles last year. So with how good their offense is, we knew they were going to lose a lot of talent. But the defense, for how shaky it was last year, loses a lot of their better players from last season. So definitely some things to work on offensively, defensively, all around this football locker room. But when you take a look at Western Kentucky, hey, there are still some solid pieces here. In the transfer portal, they bring in Jarrett Deggy to try to maybe be that quarterback, but maybe Austin Reed, I believe, is a West Florida transfer. Of course, Jarrett Deggy over from West Virginia. But those two guys definitely going to end up pushing for the starting job. I would think that Deggy maybe ends up getting that starting role, but Austin Reed, I think, can definitely push for it and may get playing time this upcoming season. In the running back room, well, you're going to have a 1-2 kind of like you did last season. And again, you may run the football a lot more this upcoming year. Kai Robichaux, I probably said that last name wrong. I apologize, but had 332 yards, 3 touchdowns, was the third leading rusher. And then Jakiri Moses, probably said that name wrong as well, had 142 yards and a touchdown last year. That'll be your 1-2 at the running back position. Wide receivers, well, hey, Dawood Davis, who was the third leading receiver last year, had 763 yards and 8 touchdowns, is gone. Malachi Corley is back as well, had 691 yards and 7 touchdowns. And then a couple guys are going to have to step up their game, right? Dalvin Smith is coming back, and Michael Matheson is a transfer coming into this program. By the way, Dalvin Smith had 5 touchdown receptions a season ago. You also get a tight end in Joey Belgian coming back as well. Had 6 touchdown catches last year, only 91 yards, but in 14 catches, had 6 touchdowns. He'll be a big part of that passing group there as well. You also have tight end Joshua Simon back there as well. On the defensive side, well, Jawan Jones comes back as well as Darius Shipp. Darius Shipp had 40 tackles, 2 sacks last year, and Jawan Jones, 4 sacks, 45 tackles last year. So there's kind of your 1-2 on the defensive line. I believe that's an end and a tackle there that are playing there. Jaden Hunter, Will Ignat, couple names at the linebacker group that you're going to see pretty prevalent. And then in the defensive back group, well, you have A.J. Brathwaite, Rome Weber, who's a transfer coming in, and then Khalif Hilassi is a name that is coming back for this defense now. Hilassi, 5 pass defended, 2 picks last year. Brathwaite was the 4th leading tackler last year, had 64 tackles last year, had an interception as well. So there still is some good talent here, but not as good as the talent from last year. They're obviously going to take a step back, but this team is more than capable, especially if they can get good quarterback play. It does not have to be as good as last year, but if they can get good quarterback play, this team is going back to a bowl game. As now we take a look at their schedule, hey, this is the 2nd team in the nation to play 13 games. Well, look at who else on their schedule, Hawaii. They also play 13 games this upcoming season. So a little bit of a scheduling quirk there. But otherwise, let's take a look at their non-conference games. You got home games against Austin, PA. That should be a win there. A home game against Troy in non-conference play as well. That's going to be a fairly interesting game to watch there, leaning the way of the Hilltoppers slightly. You got road games against Hawaii, Indiana, and Auburn on the schedule. Hawaii loses a lot from last year. Indiana had an abysmal year, but they're hoping to bounce back and have a little bit of a better year this upcoming year. And Auburn, probably going to be one of Western Kentucky's hardest games on this schedule. When you take a look across conference play, you have home games against FIU, UAB, North Texas, and Rice, and games on the road against UTSA, Middle Tennessee, Charlotte, and FAU. So diving a little bit deeper into the schedule, let's talk non-conference play first. That road game against Hawaii, I think, is going to be fairly simple for Western Kentucky. Hawaii loses a lot this year. Now, they are getting a new head coach, Timmy Chang, coming over from Nevada, but I think he's going to need a couple years to try to shape this Hawaii program the way he wants it. Hawaii, usually a competitive team right around bowl game standard. I think they take a pretty sizable step back this year, and Timmy Chang gets some rebuilding opportunities on the road against Indiana. I think we all know how bad that team was a season ago, but they are going to be looking to turn things around this upcoming year, and I think Indiana is going to have a better season. Now, does that lead them to a bowl game? I don't necessarily think so, but still going to be a hard game for Western Kentucky to go win on the road. Same thing with Auburn. Auburn, very much on the fringe of being a breakout 8-4, 9-3 type team this year. Now, that's a very difficult schedule. That includes Western Kentucky, and I think they can give Auburn maybe a fight for a quarter or two, but in the end, I think the Tigers pretty much have that one. And then the game against Troy, which I think is the most interesting non-conference game on the schedule. Troy, I think, is also poised for a breakout year within their respective conference, the Sun Belt, and I think Troy could be pretty good this upcoming season, especially that defense. I think could be one of the best in the Sun Belt. Western Kentucky struggled on defense last year, and if this offense was any resemblance of what it was last year, they're going to give Troy some troubles, and they get the game at home. So that's why I'm leaning the Hilltoppers slightly. When you look across conference play, hey, there are a lot of favorable matchups, but a lot of hard ones here as well. You get some favorable matchups, though. FIU, Middle Tennessee, Rice. Probably going to be the 3 worst teams in the conference this year. Not too big of challenges, but the rest of them, they're all going to give Western Kentucky their respective fights. You got UTSA, UAB, Charlotte, North Texas, FAU. Those are all teams that can very well push for a spot in the conference championship game this upcoming season, especially UTSA, UAB, and FAU. And you have to play 2 of those 3 on the road. So it's a hard conference schedule for Western Kentucky. The non-con has some interesting games there as well, but this is a team that is more than capable, as I said, of going bowling. Now, I don't do game-by-game predictions. I do a more percentage-based outlook. Tell me predict the team's records. Of the games in red, I just don't see you winning the game. If the game is in orange, I still don't see you winning, but it is college football and upsets can happen. Yellow are your 50-50 or high upset potential games. Games in yellow-green are games that you should win, but hey, watch out for the team on the other side of the ball, and games in green, I do have you winning. Austin P, I think that should be a win. Hawaii, as I stated for the reasons I stated before, that should be a win. FIU, Middle Tennessee, and Rice, I think are going to be wins easy enough. So there's already 5 wins for this Western Kentucky team. You just need 1 more to be bowl eligible. Now, I'm not quite sure how it works with a 13-game schedule, but I do think just that 6th win will get you enough. Well, it might not come against Indiana. It might not come against Auburn. I know how bad Indiana was last year, but that team is going to get better this year. It's just a question of how much better they get. Probably not better enough to get into a bowl game with all they've lost, especially to the transfer portal by the likes of Miles Marshall. I believe Fry Fogel is gone. When you take a look elsewhere at the quarterback position, of course, Michael Penix, etc., etc. Indiana's going to be a better team this year, and Western Kentucky may be able to pull that one out, but I think Western Kentucky definitely going to be the underdogs, and, well, we'll see what happens in that game. But Auburn, yeah, I don't think Western Kentucky is going to win that one on the road in Jordan-Hare. The game's in orange. You could put it in red. It's going to be that hard of a game for the Hilltoppers. Otherwise, I do have some games in conference play in orange. I don't think they're going to be able to beat UTSA. Yes, they are losing Sincere McCormick, but they're bringing in Traylon Smith from Arkansas, and otherwise, they're starting their best wide receiver returns. They're starting quarterback returns, some good pieces on defense. Still going to be a good road runner team. Same kind of concept there with UAB. They're losing some pretty talented pieces, but overall, they're going to have one of the more talented teams in Conference USA. Otherwise, let's look at the games in yellow. FAU, Charlotte, and North Texas in conference play. Those are going to be very, very important swing games for Western Kentucky this upcoming season if they want to have any semblance of a season like they did last year. Now, this upcoming season, we know they're going to take a step back, and they may have to very well win one of those games to end up getting into a bowl game. But I think that when you look at that game against Troy, again, for the reasons I've stated before, I am leaning Western Kentucky slightly, and that may be what puts them over the threshold. I think a 6-7 season is going to be seen as a disappointment for this Western Kentucky team. I have them a little bit ahead of that coming into the season. I have them at 7-6 in 2022. Again, they do play 13 games. That's why the record is kind of wonky looking. But 7-6 I do have for the Hilltoppers. I think Western Kentucky, if they can get solid quarterback play, I think they have the skill corps. That defense, there are question marks there, but I think this offense can be good enough. Not as good as last year. There's no way. But when you take a look across this team, I do think this team is going to be competitive, going to be a solid enough team. I got them going back to a bowl game in 2022. Not necessarily pushing for a conference title like they did last year, but good enough for the postseason. That's going to do it for my prediction on the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Anything helps support the channel. And remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.